What do you think? After South Carolina, do you think Donald Trump, there's no stopping him?
I think it would be pretty hard to stop him in Nevada. SEC primary coming right around the corner. That's his territory. Let me just tell you, Maria, one thing that I was noticing, I was watching the rally last night and a couple of the previous rallies of Trump, and to a lesser extent Rubio, although he's had pretty nice-sized crowds. There's a fun factor at the Trump rally. I know that people watching think that's kind of goofy. You know, what do you mean fun factor? But since when does politics have to not be fun? I mean, at some point, I think we should see that the people coming to these rallies, they love the country. They might not agree with every tactic of Trump's. They might even think, you know, he's over the top on some of the things he says. But you do get the sense, and some of the Fox reporters there over the last couple of days have noticed, you do get the sense that people are there. There's a lot of joy, and there's a lot of hope. People are laughing. They're having a good time. They're kind of calling back to Trump. And I think a lot of the politicians in the Republican Party have gotten so caught up in, you know, America's in decline. It's going to be a long slog going forward, and ISIS is around the corner. And there's not enough joy in campaigning. And you do get that sense in those crowds. So I remember Reagan in 1980. I was in high school. I remember the sense of joy. Bush in 2000. That was a joyful campaign, really joyful. Yeah. And you get that sense that's going to drive some of the turnout as well as the issues, of course.
Yeah,
Laura, hi, Laura. It's David. I'm loving this. I'm thinking about my Tea Party rallies here in New York City. Thousands of people, lots of fun, lots of planning, the rallies all over the country. You're right. Politics, what we do, it's supposed to be fun. But for Donald Trump, I have a question and kind of as a challenge, I think, for him.
Sure.
Going into the SEC primaries, he's got to come out about 50 to 55% of support, or it's going to be a question of can Rubio and Cruz or somebody keep bleeding away. What do you say to that?
I'm not sure about that. I think Rubio has not won a contest yet, and yet there are a lot of people on television saying Rubio has all the momentum. I just don't understand that analysis. You have one. He defies so much political gravity in this, but still the basics are you've got to garner more and more of the support as others kind of fade away. Well, imagine if the establishment of the GOP actually did what it normally does, which is rally behind the overwhelming frontrunner. So they're not doing that now. They're actually figuring out ways to stop the frontrunner. But if a few of these establishment people kind of came along to the realization that on a few issues, trade, globalization, immigration, a few of these issues, if they move just a little bit toward the voters, they might be able to propel Rubio into a big challenge with Trump. But if they stick to their guns on the big issues that have kept the median income in this country stagnating, I don't see how they put the party back together again. So they could kill off Trump. That's all I'm saying. They could maybe kill off Trump with some jiu-jitsu moves. But in the end, those people who are rallying to Trump, I'm not sure you're going to get them back.
Laura, you tweeted, it's Dagan, you tweeted about this last night. Do you think if Trump is the GOP nominee that he can beat Hillary? Because Brit Hume, which you think, but Brit Hume was talking about O'Reilly last night. You tweeted this because his negatives are higher than hers are. And he trails her in a head-to-head in the Fox News poll, at least the latest one.
Yeah, these are the same polls that were showing that South Carolina was going to be really close. You know, there was going to be 4 points in South Carolina at the end with some of the polls that we were showing. So again, imagine if the mainstream Republican Party rallied behind the frontrunner. So I think you're right. If the mainstream Republican Party wants to throw in with the Democrats to kill off Trump, if he's the nominee, then yeah, Trump probably will have a difficult time. If the mainstream GOP says, look, we're going to put together a new coalition, we're going to help Trump on some of these issues, but we're going to move more toward the grassroots of the country, put a new coalition of Republican Party back together, I don't see how you don't beat Hillary. Yeah. I know I love Britt. I disagree with his analysis. On globalism, trade, and immigration, I think Trump goes into a city like Chicago. I think he challenges what the Democrats have done to Chicago, Detroit, L.A., Boston, Hartford, Connecticut, Atlanta. I think he does a tour of this country that turns politics upside down if he wants to do it.
But does he need to get more specific in terms of solutions and his plans when he's up against Hillary, who's just going to talk and tout her experience?
Well, absolutely. I think he should, and he probably will. But I think he should and he will. But, you know, every people say, we got to get more specific.
Right.
I was listening to Rubio at his rally yesterday. America is going to be the greatest country in the face of the earth in the 21st century. And okay, well, you tell me how that all works with the Trans-Pacific Partnership. You tell me how that works with letting millions and millions of people who are indigent workers and science STEM workers into the country. You tell that to a 50-year-old guy who got laid off by Disney to train as foreign replacement. How is that country that you're describing with the same old Bush policies, how is that going to work differently just because you're a younger version of Jeb Bush or George W. Bush?
Here's Tony Dwyer, Laura.
Laura,
yeah, Tony.
Do you think there will ever be a backlash to Donald Trump's style? Or do you think he's going to soften it as he gets closer to what looks like a nomination?
Well, I think you've seen him ebb and flow on the style a little bit, right? I mean, after Iowa, he seemed
like
a little
more Evans.
Well, I saw him. You guys, I saw him with Sean Hannity last night.
He was good, and particularly on Israel. I watched that too.
I saw him with Sean Hannity, Anderson Cooper.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gonna have to grow as a candidate as well. I mean, his face isn't up on Mount Rushmore quite yet. Okay,
right.
So he's gonna have to grow. He's gonna have to work with these establishment people if this is all gonna work. But so far, Trump, in my mind, has shown more willingness to work with other people on some of these issues than the establishment has demonstrated its willingness to work with him.
He's definitely, Laura, you'll admit, talking to people in the Republican Party, supporters, they're in the fourth stage of grief. They're in the depression phase. They're one step away from acceptance with this guy.
Yeah, well, I think I sat in front of one of the longtime lobbyists in Washington at Scalia's funeral on Saturday, a wonderful and solemn, somber moment. But tapped me on the shoulder. He said, what do you think is going to happen? This guy who's been multimillionaire lobbyist, very successful lobbyist. I think you know, it might be more difficult for you guys over the next few years. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, I think the lobbyists and consultancy class, we're all kind of re-examining how that's all worked out for us over the last, you know, couple of decades. And you see, like, the fear in the eyes of these people. Like, well, what do you mean by that? And I'm kind of playing. I'm just playing around.
Yeah.
But they seem a little worried. And I've been saying this. Trump's not a perfect candidate. None of these guys are perfect candidates.
Right.
None of them are. I think he has a lot of work to do. But the message from the American voters is we're so angry, we're willing to take this table, turn it over, and see the cockroaches scatter. That's what 35% of the voters are doing. So if you kill off Trump tomorrow, if he gets out of the race for some reason, you still have to get those voters. You still have to figure out how to turn our economy into an engine of growth for native-born workers. And if you do that, then I think people will start following you. But Trump could go away tomorrow, and we're still going to have these this real split divide in the GOP that has to be healed somehow.
Laura.